Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to today's podcast of Her Version, a podcast dedicated to hearing stories of struggle to triumph and challenges to victories, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire others. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. If you are new to this podcast, make sure to follow, like, subscribe, and share. Today's podcast is dedicated to every woman that is dealing with a physical disability. Reyva is with me here today, and she has a physical disability called cerebral palsy. As a child, she was in and out of foster homes. Over the course of several years, she found herself in all kinds of compromising situations. She eventually got married, had 2 children, and is now raising her daughters on her own. Although the feelings of fear, loneliness, and scarcity have been very real for her over the years, she has decided to take her power back. Despite her challenges, she graduated from college with 2 AA degrees in early childhood education and is attending Sacramento State University as she works towards earning a BA in social work. I am so excited to have Reyva here today. Let's welcome her.
Hi,
What's up, girl? How are you?
I'm doing good.
I'm so
Doing good.
happy to have you. I'm so happy that you took some time out of your day to chit chat with us. How's the weather? How's everything over there? You're on the other side.
It is a beautiful day here, but quite windy. Like I say, it's better than being hot.
I hear
Um,
you. I hear you on that.
yeah.
So I'm so excited that we connected. This is definitely something that so many women deal with, and after speaking with you, you really opened up my eyes to things that we don't necessarily think about. Motherhood in itself is already pretty complicated as it is, and then adding on a physical disability to that, um, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. So I'm so excited to have you here to really open our eyes to what goes on in your life and what you're dealing with, and to kind of help us relate to you. So,
Okay.
tell me about your past.
Well, I grew up as a foster child, so my mother was unable to take care of me, and so um, I say that she gave me into the hands of society, or um, she technically, like, you know, um, hid me in society because she was a victim of domestic violence, and because of that, she was unable to take care of her children, so she had to hide us into society. And then I went through several homes, and while I was going through those homes, I also was going through reconstructive surgery to learn how to walk with my cerebral palsy, and um, so there was definitely some challenges there. I know couple of the homes were not as good, and maybe sometimes that's to be expected, but sometimes you're lucky enough to get a home where the people care about you, and that happened for me. So
Got it. Now, I apologize for my sense or being naive, I guess. But were you born with cerebral palsy? What is cerebral palsy?
so cerebral palsy is basically a lack of oxygen to the brain. So it's a form of brain damage, and from what I know, I was not born with cerebral palsy, but then something happened to me as a child that caused me to have this brain damage. Um, and then it affects my legs and my ability to walk. And so I use crutches to walk and get around. As a child, I had corrective braces that I would have to sleep in, and um, several surgeries. I remember wearing long casts on my legs during the summer, and it would itch really bad, and it was hard, but I got through that with physical therapy, and um, just learning how to walk over and over. Every time I had surgery, I had to learn how to walk over and over again.
How when did it become a parent? Do you remember before and after?
No.
Okay.
So I just remember. Well, I started off in a wheelchair, and I don't think I was ever supposed to walk. You know, but I had a good doctor at the time who believed that I could walk, and he did everything in his power to help me try to learn to walk. He gave me a walker, and I remember starting with the walker, and then after the walker, I went from that to crutches. And I
Wow.
remember being in I think it was my first grade class, and it was recess time, and the students kind of lined up and they kind of helped me take my first steps right there on the playground. And I remember walking to my first grade teacher, taking my first few little steps at like 7 years old.
Oh my gosh. What an encouraging class. That's awesome. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah. If I can hear you, it's going good.
Okay, cool. Well, that's so interesting. So now, where you are now in your life, do you only walk with crutches or can you do both?
I can do both. I can actually walk with both my crutches and by myself. Every now and then I need to hang on to the walls to balance or, you know, but pretty much I do it on my own.
That's so cool. That and thanks to the doctor, right?
Yes, yes, he was a fabulous doctor, and I didn't want to lose him. You know, as you get older, they make you move on to better doctors as you get older. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't want to lose this particular doctor because he was so good. You know.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So, you mentioned that you had stayed in a couple of foster homes. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So I think it was around 7 foster homes to be honest.
Um,
The things about that, I could be wrong. For those that are watching, be like, no, it wasn't. But I could be, roughly around 7 homes. And when I started out in the Napa Valley area, and I lived with a wonderful lady and her family, and she was super good to me. I
how
mean,
old were you?
at that time, I believe she got me when I was about six, five, 5 or 6,
Okay.
and her and her husband just took me in and they loved me a lot. However, I had got uprooted from that home because during those times, the child services didn't feel that it was appropriate for a black child to live with a white family, and that was a white family. So they thought it would be better that I go and live with people of my own color, and so
Wow.
I ended up moving away from there, and that's how I ended up in Sacramento.
Wow. So even though they were more than willing to be with you and raise you,
They were doing the job, as far as I know. Yeah,
wow. Interesting.
and
So then
yeah,
you went to go ahead.
from what I was told, that I would be better suited with people of my color.
Wow. And then
Yeah.
how did that go?
Well, when I got here, um, it didn't turn out to be the best situation as they thought. I remember feeling very optimistic as a child, like, oh, hold on to the future. I just thought it was going to be great. And then got here and, you know, it just, it wasn't good. The foster mother was quite abusive to all her foster children, not just me. She was quite abusive to all of them. And um, sometimes it's like that when you're a foster kid. Not everybody gets you because they love children or want kids. They do it for whatever reasons they do it, money or whatever reasons. And so sometimes you end up in situations where you get abused because the person may not love you uh, like they should. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Um, When did you eventually end up without a home? How did that happen?
So, so So from the time that I was in that lady's home that was abusive, now to tell you, I don't know who called the people on her. I just know that they came, they kind of busted the door down, and they took me away from her as a kid, and then from her I went through a couple more foster homes, and then eventually I met um, a lady named Miss Mikes, and she became my family. She became my home. She opened her doors to me, and she raised me, and she believed in me. And I think that that was really what the turnaround was. It really, to have somebody that cared, made all the difference. You
How
know,
old were you at that time?
when I got to her, I was about 8 years old.
Okay.
She already had four children of her own, and they took me in like brother and sister. And she also had other foster children, but she decided to take a legal guardianship of me, and so all the other foster children went away, and she kept me, and we stayed in contact until she died in 2011. And when she died, she was 93 years old, and she was just a wonderful, strong, stoic woman
Wow.
uh, that just
Wow.
did a wonderful, wonderful life, and she did a wonderful job raising all the children that she raised.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Um, so when did you leave her home and then weren't able to make it on your own, or how did that happen?
So what happened? So from there, what happened was I decided, you know what? I want to live on my own. I'm grown. I can do what I want to. I'm going to live on my own. And I did that. I managed to get my own apartment, and I had a job, and I was going to school and everything, and I was doing good. And then I found my mother. So see, I didn't. The homeless part didn't come till a little later, because then shortly after moving out on my own, I found my biological mother.
Nice.
So,
How'd that work out?
so the way that I found her through a TV show called Life
Really?
Moment. Yeah, called Life Moment. And it was kind of like one of those shows. It was new and upcoming, and aired at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Um, but I was up watching it, and also I remember watching a lot of Maury Povich and just different shows that I would think, man, people would be reuniting with their family, and I used to think, man, when is my day gonna come? When am I gonna meet my mother? Or my family? And so one day this show comes on called Life Moments, and they're looking for people with inspiring stories. So
Yeah.
I called them up, and I said, hey, I have an inspiring story. Left a voicemail telling them about how my first grade teacher was going to teach me how to walk on recess. So they called me back, and they started asking me questions, and I started explaining how, I learned how to walk on recess and everything. And they said, well, tell me about your parents. And I said, to be honest with you, I don't know my mom and dad. I've never met them. I don't know them. And so they were surprised. They were like, we could do two shows on you, And I remember thinking, yeah, right, wow, you want to do two shows with me? And they were like, yeah, we're going to find your mom. And I remember thinking, you know what? I've been looking for her my whole life. Like, if you find her, I'm going to be so amazed. Well, sure enough, they found her 2 weeks before Christmas.
Wow.
Um, 2 weeks before Christmas. This was, I think, 2002. 2 weeks before Christmas. And the lady called me back, and she said, Reyva, I have good news and I have bad news. She said, the good news is that we found your mom.
Uh-huh.
The bad news is that she does not want to go on television. And I
Oh,
thought, oh, okay. So then the lady, and she said, what? I think you deserve to know your mom, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the phone number.
Got it.
And she did. And I called my mom, and I remember saying to myself, I was really nervous and saying, okay, what's going to come of this? And then when she answered the phone, I said, do you remember me? And she said, yes. I kind of expected you to call me one day. I knew that you eventually would call me. You have two sisters here, and so it went from there. And we were talking every day, and um, that longing that was inside of me to know who I was, and to know where I came from, it was just so strong. So despite I had people telling me, Reyva, take it easy with your mom. You just met her. Don't go running out there. You don't know her. And I'm gonna be honest, I didn't listen. I didn't listen to any of them. And I packed up everything I had. I packed up everything I had. Um, Pretty much gave all my furniture away, sent a box out there to my mom, and the only thing I took really with me on the plane was my cat that I had at the time. She went with me, and I remember sitting on the airplane thinking, looking out the window, thinking, what am I doing? I'm so nervous. What's it gonna be like? Does she look like me? Even the guy next to me was like, "Are you okay?" And I just remember thinking, I'm so excited and yet so scared.
Mhm.
And
That's
got
awesome.
there, yeah, got there, and there she was. And
Big hug. Did you get a hug?
you know, I don't know. I don't think we hugged right away because it was such a shock.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was such a shock,
Yeah.
you know.
I totally understand.
Mhm. And I didn't just meet her. I have two sisters I met, and uh,
Wow.
yeah, so I didn't just meet her. And when I found her, I found everybody. So,
Wow. That's awesome. Very
mhm,
cool. So did you
mhm.
wind up I know that um there was after all of this kind of happened, shortly thereafter you met a man. Did you
Oh,
meet?
wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot this because you were asking me about being homeless. So what
Yeah.
happened was I was with my mom for 4 months,
Yeah.
and then she decided that it was all too much for her to do,
Mhm.
and so she asked me to go back to California,
Wow.
uh, where I came from. And when I did that, it was kind of a shock to me because I was like, where am I going to go? I had given up school. I had given up housing because I was on housing at the time. I had given up everything. And uh, I was like, where am I going to go? I have nowhere to go. And sure enough, I called a childhood friend, and she said, you can come here.
Mhm.
And so I ended up, getting the deposit back from the apartment that I had, and that was able to pay for me a plane ticket back to California. And then when I got here, um, she took me in, and she just let me be in her daughter's room. And I paid her a little amount of money to just be there until I was able to get my housing back. And if anybody that's ever had housing or Section 8 housing, will tell you that it's not easy to get that back. And I managed to get it back. I remember walking in the office, and the lady, she's they called me. Usually, you have to go through an orientation, and you have to go through a process. Well, this lady, she said, why did you leave? And you went through the proper steps, but you didn't do everything correctly. So since you tried, I'm going to give you back your Section 8. She said, don't ever give it away for anybody ever again. And she handed it to me. And I said, and from there, I said, I won't. I'll
Yeah.
never give it away again. And um, I took it, and I still had to find a place. And I remember praying and asking God, Lord, please just, I need a place to go. I can't stay here with my friend forever. I said, I just want somebody not to look at my credit, but look at me as a good person, a good renter. And sure enough, as soon as I said that, I was looking in the housing list, and there was an apartment that I called by chance. And the man said, well, how much do you want to pay for deposit? Well, how much do you want to pay for rent? And I thought, you're asking me how much I want to pay. He came, picked me up, gave me a ride, showed me the apartment, and gave me the place that day. And
What?
yes, it just shows you how wonderful God works things out for you. Because He gave it to me that day, and I was able to pay whatever I had for rent while I stayed there. Um,
Wow.
Now, mind you, I moved in with nothing, so I didn't have um, furniture. I didn't have food. I didn't have a whole lot of money. I only had the clothes on my back and maybe like one backpack. I had nothing.
Wow.
And I was able to run into a college group that was at Sacramento City College, and they found out my situation, and
Mhm.
they were so nice. There's a group called Remedy, and they were so nice that they had helped me to they raised money to help me pay for my first and last month's rent, and they gave me food and clothes and furniture, and they just restored me. They
Wow.
restored me. And then from there I met some other people that became constant friends in my life and are still good friends with me today. Um, and yeah, and that's how I rebuilt from that. So yeah, and I was able to get my job back, and yeah.
So cool. So cool. Wow. What a story. I can't even imagine how you're feeling because there's so much uncertainty during all of that. And then it just all fell into place.
Yeah, I remember feeling scared, and like I remember telling people, or not telling people, but telling myself, um, like where do I belong? I belong to no one. I even say today, right now, that I belong in every place and no place at all, because I belong to no one at all. I'm just I belong to me, and I belong to God.
Yep. Yep.
That's it.
100%. 100%. So,
Mhm.
so soon after all of this, you met a man. Did you meet him on a TV show?
No. No, I actually met him on my way home from work. Um, we met on the train here in Sacramento, and it was I can't say love at first sight, but we became friends real quickly.
Mhm.
And he invited me to church. He introduced me to his family, his brothers, and me and his family got along really well. And then shortly after that, we got married, and we stayed married. We've been married for 15 years,
Wow.
and at that time, I'm thinking, wow, I finally have my forever family. I will never be traded again. I remember a lot of times sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table with my family thinking, this is not a foster family. They're not going to trade you off and pass you off for the next best thing. And so it felt amazing to have that feeling of belonging.
Yeah. And then when did you decide to have children?
So I had my first daughter a year after we were married. So, and that was quite different because being a person with a disability, I gave natural birth, no drugs.
By choice?
And by well, my babies come really fast. So she was I was in labor and she was out of there in 30 minutes. So it was almost like not by choice, but I just had to. She was coming out. So um, I just had to hurry up and get up there and have her. Um, but one of the interesting things about her birth was I remember the nurse coming in. and she kind of was questioning. I don't remember exactly the things that she was saying, but she was kind of like looking over my head, and she wasn't talking to me. She was talking to the person in the room next to me. And I remember feeling, you know what? I am perfectly capable of answering any questions that you have for me. Um, I know that you see this disability, but I just gave birth to this child, and I am perfectly capable of answering.
Oh, that's great.
So she apologized, and then, she started communicating with me. But I think a lot of times that's the misunderstanding that a lot of people have. They assume that just because you have a disability that you may not understand, and I think that it should be known that just because you see somebody with a disability or somebody that might be deaf or something, don't assume that they don't know.
Yeah,
People are more capable than you give them credit for. So
100%. And then after all of that, you got pregnant again.
I did. I have a little 8-year-old girl,
Okay.
and that was an amazing story in itself. Um, so with her, I ended up giving birth to her by myself. So nobody was in the room with me when I gave birth to her. The hospital that I gave birth to, they had kicked everybody out of the room, and they were like, "There's no room for anybody in here. Everybody's got to go." And I remember screaming like, "Oh my goodness! I, what's going on? I need to have the baby or whatever." And she just was like, "You're not dilated enough. I'm gonna send you home." As a nurse, she's like, "I'm gonna send you home." And I was like, "Ma'am, you can't, because I have babies so fast. If you send me home, I'm gonna have the baby in the car or something. You can't." And so she went and she checked with the doctor, and she said, "Well, the doctor said you can stay." And I was like, "Well, thank you very much for that." you know. And she left out, and I remember just feeling the cramps, feeling the cramps of labor. And then next thing you know, I just started pushing. I was like, "Forget it, nobody's in here. I'm just gonna start pushing." And sure enough, I pushed and I pushed, and the baby was out. Thank God the table didn't drop down, because she would have fell to the floor. The nurse came in, and she said, "Oh my goodness, the baby is here."
Oh my God.
And she picked up the baby, and she handed it to me, and I said, "I told you."
Oh
I
my
told
gosh.
you. And the next day, um, a doctor came in my room, and she said, "I'm the one that delivered your baby." And I looked at her and I said, "No, you didn't." I said, "Me and Jesus delivered this baby." Yeah, I
Oh,
said,
that's great.
yeah, I said, "No, me and Jesus delivered this baby all by ourselves." So
Wow, girl.
yeah, so that's that. That's how they came into the world.
Wow. So how old are they now?
So my oldest one is gonna be 15 coming up pretty soon, and my little one is 8. And my little one plays the piano, and my oldest one, she's such a big help to me. She helps me out around the house, and uh, she's such a big help. I mean, I couldn't ask for better children. I love them. I often say to myself that God gave me my oldest one so I would never have to be alone again. Because if you think about it, I started off alone, and then when you have a baby, you have a forever bloodline connection. So, God gave me her so I never have to be alone again, and I'm grateful for that. And then my little one, she's so funny. I say that God gave me her so that I always have a smile on my face, so
Mm.
that my so that my days of sadness don't have to be many, because she keeps me laughing. She keeps me going.
That's awesome. Wow. I love that. That makes me totally teary-eyed. Oh, that's beautiful.